Welcome on into another great episode here on the Southern Sports Scene. My name is Lucas Hill. As always, make sure you all do us a favor. Y'all hit the like, share, and subscribe down below. Turn on the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live, post a new video, or post a new short here on the Southern Sports Scene. Every live show brought to you by our good friends over at FrostBuddy. Going over to frostbuddy.com. Use the promo code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase. That is code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase. Look, man, we got a lot that we need to talk about. I have a lot of predictions that I do believe will come true this weekend. A lot of things that I think is going to happen over the next couple of days as we approach NFL draft day. There's still a lot of developments currently going on. Also want to thank our friends, by the way, over at Check Nutrition. Use that link below to get yourself a nice little discount. Guys, there is nothing better than when we have these situations where you have a guy such as a David Bailey, such as an Arvell Reese, such as a Monroe Freeling, that gets these big attention getters during the course of draft week, and then all of a sudden his draft stock explodes out of nowhere. Absolutely explodes. And we're going to talk about that specifically throughout the day. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, hit that like, share, and subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live, post a video, or post a new short. All right. So let's talk about this situation right now with my big board. I want to go in and I'm going to tell you every single pick that I believe will happen from 1 all the way to 32 tomorrow. And I think that I'm right in a lot of situations. Am I wrong in a lot of situations? Yes. But nonetheless, I'm going to be blunt and I'm going to be honest when I talk about these sorts of things. Make no mistake about that. With the first overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, Vegas has their quarterback of the future. They're getting Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana, the Heisman Trophy winner. He's been in the consensus number 1 overall pick, in my opinion, since the middle of last year. He's been my pick to be the number 1 overall pick going into this past offseason. Crazy as it sounds, I've been one of the very few guys that have stated that Fernando Mendoza is the future at the quarterback position. He is the guy that, despite this being in the preseason being a fairly weak draft class, he would be quarterback 1 coming out of it. I was absolutely correct. I think there's a lot of things that people don't like about his game. They think he's not over. They think it's too simplistic. They think, oh, well, he's just this is that. Guys, he comes up clutch. Comes up clutch in big situations. I think he has one of the better arms in this draft class. And I think that his skill set and his game is going to translate well to the Clint Kubiak offense out in Vegas. I know that it's going to take him some time to learn. That's why I think that he'll be ready to go by the time we hit the preseason. I think he'll have a good understanding of the offense. Even if he doesn't start right away, I think once he steps out onto the field and gets a good understanding of the playbook and gets a good understanding of where the direction of that team is going to go, I think he's going to take off really well, and I think it's going to benefit him for the better. The number 2 overall pick has been a hot topic of conversation this week. And it's been a topic where I firmly believe that if this move is made, it's only going to not go the way that New York wants it to. Let's be honest. Because in my personal, humble opinion, David Bailey should not be the number 2 overall pick. In fact, as of late, I do have this guy outside the top 10. This is only my projection. Do I expect him to fall outside the top 10 come Saturday? Probably not. But again, when you look at basic needs, when you look at where they are over the course of the rest of this season or the rest of this draft cycle, which is the next 2 days, I know scouts are going to be grinding it out, looking at the tape. Here's the thing about David Bailey that does concern me. David Bailey is a very, very, very good player. Make no mistake about that. But here is the thing. If the Jets go out and they get Bailey instead of Arvell Reese, I think you're missing out on a guy like Arvell Reese who can stretch the field a lot better than David Bailey. It's my own personal opinion. Either way, I like David. I think he was an incredible get coming out of Stanford this past year. I think he's a prototypical edge guy, 6'3", 250, 6'7" wingspan, 4'5" at the 40-yard dash, 35-inch vertical, 10'9" broad jump. He's a really, really good talented player. Make no mistake about that. I don't think that he's going to be the number 2 overall pick, though. He's special, but I just don't see a situation where he goes number 1, where he goes number 2. It's been so back and forth recently between him and Arvell Reese that it's getting a little ridiculous. Here's the thing. Todd McShay has said this. April 15th. Now we're back to David Bailey, and it's close to a foregone conclusion in NFL circles. If I had to put my own money on it right now, it would heavily be on David Bailey. I sent out a text, and the answer I got back was that we canceled the meeting, so I sent a follow-up text asking what the deal is. Crickets. Flying to LA early tomorrow a.m. I'm going to bed believing Reese is the Jets pick at number 2. Last Sunday I said I wasn't decided. Now here's my information. It's Arvell Reese at 2. I'm now of the belief that New York views Bailey, a proven pass rusher, as a safer pick than Reese. Here's what it is. It is an argument between the ownership and between the coach. Arvell Reese is a higher upgrade. You have to think about the future of this team. Arvell Reese is a more complete player compared to David Bailey. David Bailey is a great pass rusher. Make no mistake. But his off-ball linebacker strengths are even better. He has had a really, really solid he had a really good year last year at his linebacker position. Almost Micah Parsons-like dominance in parts of the game. That's why I think people are so intrigued with a guy like him, is because of what he can do working sideline to sideline and being a guy that can be a rangy linebacker. That's why I have the Jets going number 2 and picking Arvell Reese. I think you have to understand that. I think that when you talk about the future of this team, David Bailey is a guy that's going to turn out exactly like what Jermaine Johnson had this past year with the Jets. He's a guy that's going to be there for a couple years. He'll have one decent year where he had pretty decent statistics, 7.5 sacks. I don't think he'll struggle with injury, but I think production-wise, he's just not right there when you compare him to a guy like Arvell Reese. I think Arvell Reese is more of a long-term solution compared to David Bailey. It's the bottom line. Number 3 overall pick, I think you got to go offensive line here if you're Arizona. I understand that you lost Kyler Murray. I understand that you need some more guys on the defensive side of the ball. But I think right now, whoever you get in free agency, your offensive line was one of the worst in the NFL this past year. You have to focus exclusively on getting a top-tier and future NFL offensive lineman that can last at that position for a long time, and that's where Francis Mauigoa lasts. He's been a guy that I've expected to be a top 3 pick dating back to last year. He's a freak off at left tackle, and he's going to continue to prove that going into Arizona as he begins his new journey with the Cardinals. The number 4 overall pick, the Tennessee Titans are getting another edge rusher. They have to get pressure. Tennessee's pressure rate was absolutely horrible the last couple of years. You could go out and go get an offensive lineman depending on what Arizona does. Because, look, don't be surprised if Arizona decides to flip-flop and say, hey, man, we need a defensive lineman that can come off the edge and can put himself against a top-tier lineman. That could be Ruben Bain. That could be David Bailey. Whoever it is. But I do believe that Arizona goes in the offensive line direction. Tennessee is about to get a pass rusher that is among the best in this entire draft class. They got Jermaine Johnson from New York, like I mentioned early. You got Femi Oladejo, who has shown signs coming from UCLA, but he's been hurt the last year, which absolutely sucks. You also brought in Jeffrey Simmons at defensive tackle. But again, Jeff Simmons' career has been good, but I don't know how much longer he's going to be a Tennessee Titan. I just don't know. Because I believe that he's going to enter into this is the last year of his extension. You got to start preparing for the future because I don't know how long Jeffrey Simmons is going to continue to be a Tennessee Titan. That's why I think that you go into this safe direction. You go get an edge presence. That's where you go bring in a guy like Ruben Bain, who's gotten a lot of hate recently because of some comments that were made by a former NFL player that says, oh, well, he's not worth the top 10 pick. It's a mistake he gets. It's not. Trust me. Number 5. See, I was conflicted at this point for the Giants at 5 because the most important need that for you right now is defense. If you go defense first, look, you have to overload completely on the other side of the ball. John Harbaugh has a lot to work on at this point. If you had any money to put on the Giants and where they're going to invest a lot in, it's at linebacker. Sonny Styles has proven time and time again flashes of him being the next great linebacker in college football or the next great linebacker in the NFL. I really do see him entering in to the top 5. That's where I see New York making their investment, and I think it's a smart investment. Big get for John Harbaugh and company. It's the first of 2 defensive players that I see New York getting. 6 is going to be interesting for Cleveland because I know that there is a lot of people that have said, hey, maybe you go O-line. Hey, maybe you do this. Hey, maybe you do that. Well, to be honest with you, man, I know that people have said, oh, well, maybe you should go get an offensive lineman. Maybe you should get this. Here's the problem. There's no clear-cut answer at quarterback or left tackle. You could, realistically, you could say Spencer Fano fits right in. And I would have said that a couple months ago. Where else does Cleveland need help at? They need help at corner. Their pass defense was one of the worst in the NFL. That's why I think getting a guy like Mansour Delane at number 6 is a can't miss. He will be the first DB off the board, and I think it's a smart choice for Cleveland. This guy can cover any part of the field, does not lose on any one-on-one battles. He's a special talent. He's one of the best DBs to come out of college football in a while, and he's continuing to prove it through his pro day and through what he was able to do in the regular season. The Commanders. There was a time where I thought Jeremiah Love wasn't going to be a top 10 guy, but I've started to grow on him. The Commanders need a playmaker at running back. They don't have it. I think they're going to go with the best player available in this situation, and they go get a stud on the offensive side of the ball to pair with Jaden Daniels, who's going to perform perfectly with him in the option game. Guy that can get out the backfield, be a safety valve for any quarterback. I think he fits in with this Washington Commanders offense and what they want to do. I think that's going to help them add an extra receiver as well on the outside. The New Orleans Saints, they need help everywhere, man, whether it be at corner. If Mansour Delane falls to them, I wouldn't be surprised if they take him. But I think receiver help is where they go at this point in time. Chris Olave has been struggling with a concussion. You have no other receivers. You have a lot that you have to replace on the defensive side of the ball. Cam Jordan is no longer with New Orleans. You have Demario Davis that is also no longer with the Saints. And by the way, did we forget that Marshawn Lattimore is no longer with the team? Guys, I want to tell you about our friends over at Frostbuddy. It is drinkware engineered to keep your beverages exactly how you want them. Whether you're heading out for an adventure or just powering through your day, Frostbuddy's flagship product, the Universal Buddy, replaces the need for multiple can coolers by fitting virtually every 12-ounce and 16-ounce can bottle you drink, sodas and seltzers to coffee and sparkling water, all in a single versatile design. Constructed with high quality double walled stainless steel and thoughtful features like a flexible silicone lid and a tapered shape that fits most cup holders, Frostbuddy keeps drinks cold for 12 hours and hot for up to 6 hours. So you get consistent temperature control, whether it's an iced drink on a hot afternoon or a hot coffee on the drive to work. Built to last, field tested for durability, and backed by a 30-day return policy, Frostbuddy makes everyday moments from tailgates and beach days to backyard cookouts and commutes more enjoyable. Going over and click the link below and use promo code S15 to get 15% off of your first purchase when you visit our friends over at frostbuddy.com. And when you use that promo code S15. Are you tired of spending upwards of $7 to $8 on coffees that are full of sugar and high in fat? Well, look no further than Chike Nutrition, the brand redefining what coffee can do for your day. Chike Nutrition combines the rich, familiar taste of real coffee with 20 grams of high-quality protein and the energy of 2 shots of espresso, giving you both fuel and function in every scoop. Available in a variety of crave-worthy flavors like mocha, caramel, vanilla, and many more, Chike delivers smooth, cafe-style iced coffee that mixes instantly with water or your favorite milk, with no clunky blender or complicated prep needed. Each serving is designed to be low in sugar, packed with protein, and loaded with real espresso, so that you can get a sustained energy boost that helps power your morning, workout, or busy afternoon without the crash that comes from sugary coffee drinks. Whether you're looking for better nutrition in your coffee routine or a smarter way to stay energized and full longer, Chike makes it simple. Scoop, shake, sip, and enjoy. If you want to take advantage of the new year and get in the best shape of your life, click the link below and get yourself 10% off of your first order over at ChikeNutrition.com. Man, I can't believe that my mic wasn't even on. All right, well, I guess we weren't going with a mic today then. Are we live? All right, can y'all do me a favor? Can y'all give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me? Because I don't know what happened a couple of minutes ago, because whenever I transition from the regular old speakers to now, then that just screwed everything up. I guess we're going to go with a regular speaker mic then. So, guys, I do apologize for that. Wow. David Bailey going number 15 to Tampa Bay is an interesting one because I really do see him falling outside the top 15 or falling outside the top 10. They could be one of the biggest fallers of this NFL draft class, but Tampa Bay picks up an elite edge rusher. 16, I got to go Carnell Tate to the New York Jets. Really, really impressive display with his tape. Slot guy that's going to get a lot of carries and a guy that's going to produce at a high level for a Jets team that needs receiver help to pair along with a guy like Garrett Wilson who, let's just be real, guys, he needs another guy that he needs to throw the football to. That's why I think that Carnell Tate to New York makes the most sense out of anything else. One second, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we've been trying to fix this daggum issue with my mic for the last couple of weeks, and then the dog decides to show up in here. It's got to pick number 17. The Detroit Lions need a guy to be on the opposite side of a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. That's where Keldrick Falk comes into play. I thought Keldrick Falk needed to be – look at the camera. Look at that. Keldrick Falk needed to be one of the best edge rushers in this draft class, dating all the way back to last May. I've liked this kid. I think he's a phenomenal athlete. I think his presence off the edge is going to bring a spark to any NFL defense, especially the Detroit Lions who need it. They need another edge presence because it hurt last year, especially when Aiden Hutchinson was hurt. And I think that's where Keldrick Fall comes into play. Vikings also need some defensive line depth. One of the most impressive has got to be Peter Woods. Peter Woods is one of those guys that your eyes get big when you watch his tape. I watched him at the Senior Bowl, and I watched him dominate constantly. Felt like every play was another big play by Peter Woods. Peter's just an imposing figure. And he does things that he's a 300-pound guy, but he moves like he's 240 pounds. Not really light in the ass, but I do believe that he's done really, really well. So, again, it's impressive to say the least with what type of athlete that Peter Woods is when you turn on the tape whenever he was at Clemson. Carolina needs an offensive lineman, dude. I thought Bryce Young had his best season last year, and I think he improved greatly. I think he shook back from the criticism that he got in early of 2 years ago. And, man, he flashed. He flashed why he is such an elite athlete. He flashed why he has a big arm. Even without a lot of help around him, he's still showing you what type of athlete that he is. This is exactly what we've been talking about when we talk about Caden Brock, when we talk about Caleb Down, or, oh my gosh, Bryce Young. And that's exactly what he's putting out on the field. He needs protection, though, in the pocket. Because there is no way that he can stay safe in the middle of in the middle of the field in the NFC South when you have Tampa Bay that's got an elite defense. When you go to some of the best teams to advance further, when you're going up against top-tier defenses like what Philadelphia has, like what a team like the Rams put together, like what Seattle was able to do. These are all good examples, guys. And these are all situations that Carolina is going to have to see again next year. That's where offensive line comes into play. Dallas again at number 20. Man, you got to hit on defense, dude. You got to hit on defense. That's got to be your number one focus this year, is the defensive side of the ball. That's why I think that when we talk about a guy like Caleb Banks, the best athlete at the defensive tackle position. Watched him at the Senior Bowl dominate. Watched him basically make offensive linemen look silly. Really flashy. Does tend to pop up at times in pass pro, but man, he gets his shoulder level, he gets his pad level down, and if he's able to pop up with such violence like he does very often, he's going to be an elite defensive tackle. Number 21, I think, is the growing prospect that a lot of people have been hyping up since the NFL draft. since the draft combine, and that is none other than Monroe Freeling. Freeling is one of those guys that always tends to he always just he just screams football. You want a guy like that on your program. Thought he was really good in the middle at guard, and I think he can go back and forth, working between guard and tackle. I think he's going to really do well as an offensive lineman at his position. 6'7", 315 pounds, a presence on the outside. At 22, I think his counterpart, Akeem Masdor, is going to be a big factor in Los Angeles. They have no edge rusher. Khalil Mack is gone. Joey Bosa is gone. LA just needs another edge rusher so that their defense can get over where they were before. Jim Harbaugh had a really strong start with a team like LA the last 2 years. What was the biggest factor in why they struggled last year? Why they lost in the wild card? Why they got embarrassed? Part of it is because didn't really have a whole lot to say from the defensive side of the ball. They were very short-handed this past year. And you could also say that you need to go out and you need to go get guys at wide receiver. You could say that they need to go get a tight end. But you just got Tyler Conklin from – Tyler Conklin's gone. He's now a Detroit Lion. Who's the next guy up? Is it Will Dissly, who is now a free agent? Tusker Fisk is gone. Oronde Gadsden from Syracuse is your only tight end so far. I thought he had a good season, but do you want to add tight end depth? I don't know. Do you go get Kenyon Sadiq? I'm not sure. Do you go get Ladd McConkey? Or do you get another guy to add him alongside McConkey? What about Quentin Johnson, who had just a breakout year in 2025? What about Trey Harris, who hasn't been as big of a factor as we thought? Keenan Allen is pretty much done. Actually, he is done, excuse me. But I think defense has to be the primary focus. Akeem Mesidor was one of the more underrated defensive linemen, primarily because he got overshadowed by his counterpart. But again, we still have to understand what type of player that Akeem Mesidor is. I think he's much better compared to his counterpart in the run game. But again, I think all the focus shifted to Ruben Bain that Akeem Mesidor was able to have such a dominant stretch in the college football playoff. I think whenever he got to Miami, that's when we really started to see the upside that he was able to bring for Miami. That's why he ended up being an All-American this past year. Let's go to number 23. Where does Philly go? I think they go offensive line. They could also go to safety here. I think they do the safe pick, and I think they go get Spencer Fano from Utah. 24, Cleveland with another big pick. Go give Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel a receiver that they can throw the football to. And that is where Omar Cooper Jr. comes into play. Guys, if you did not watch the college football playoff, then what the hell are you doing? If you remember during that stretch, when you looked at games like Alabama or when you looked at games like that national championship, he was just making play after play after play. And you look at games where he could just pop off in an instant. I understand he didn't play against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. You'd have liked to have him back then. That obviously didn't happen. But, guys, there were games where he can just pop off. 10 catches for 207 against Indiana State. Has 4 scores in that game. 6 for 78 against Illinois. 7 for 86 against Maryland. Comes up with big catches like he did against Penn State. What kind of athlete is he? Pretty damn good, in my opinion. I think Cleveland goes and gets a surefire receiver in Omar Cooper. Let's go to number 25 at Chicago. This is a guy that has gotten a lot of attention lately. And it's been an interesting, very, very interesting decision. And he's a guy that has gotten some and I've heard an NFL GM say that they would draft Tre'Davious Stukes over Caleb Downs. I watched the tape. I immediately fell in love. Tre'Davious Stukes is a first-round draftee. I think Chicago is going to notice this. I think they go get the kid from Arizona. Ball hawk, footwork is incredible. And I think his football IQ is well above what anybody could expect. Coming in at 26, I have TJ Parker going to Buffalo. I think Buffalo needs to beef up, whether it be on either side of the ball. I think they start off from a defensive perspective. That's where TJ Parker is going to come into play. Elite edge rusher that you need to get in order to boost Buffalo. They got to get over the hump somehow, whether it be now or whether it be later on down the road. San Francisco, I think, goes safety in this draft. I think they need some DB help, especially, bro, because I don't want to see San Francisco go down this rabbit hole where they're continuing to struggle finding ways to go down the field and they get torched whenever it comes to their defensive backs. It's embarrassing. Jair Brown is pretty good, but he's been dealing with injuries at times. So that's why I think that you have to go realistically look at this draft and you got to go safety. I think Dylan Thieneman is one of those guys that has a nose for the damn football. That's why I think that Thieneman is one of those guys that you love to see. Really love to see play. I think he's a special talent, and I think he's going to continue to prove what type of athlete that he can bring to the defensive side of the ball for San Francisco. I think he's done this time and time again. We were hyping him up last year in college football, and I expected him to be a late first-rounder. He fits in right there with where the 49ers are going to have him. Houston needs interior offensive line help. That's where Emmanuel Pregnon comes into play. If Houston wants to improve with C.J. Stroud, and I know there's been a lot of talks, maybe he goes somewhere else. Maybe this is the last time we see C.J. Stroud in it as a Houston Texan. Well, you need to go get offensive line help. Please. I mean, you have way too much talent on this team for you to be wasting it. And this team is struggling. Great end of the season where they win 9 straight. But guys, you have got to go get help for CJ Stroud. He's constantly on his back. He is struggling in the postseason. Guys, he can't be running for his life over and over and over and over again. Got a concussion and missed 3 games this year. They're exercising a 5th-year contract for him and Will Anderson. He's gotten sacked 113 times in 3 seasons with Houston. That's an average of 38 a season. In that 3-year stretch, let me tell you what Houston has done with their draft picks. I don't know if I think this is the first or second time that they've had a first-round draft. This is their first year with a first-round draft pick since CJ Stroud got drafted. And out of everyone that they've gotten, they have yet to get – I take that back. Excuse me. I thought Woody Marks had a pretty good year this past year. Out of every single player that they have drafted, only 3 have come from the second round. This is your chance. You got to get an interior guy. I think this is why you're in this position right here at 28. Interior offensive lineman has got to improve. Got to improve. Oh, and by the way, 3 from their 3 draft classes that they've had since Stroud, 3 offensive linemen are still on the roster. Manuel Pregnon's got to be that guy. Number 29, Kansas City once again. This one I have as an interesting pick. Knowing what is the future of Travis Kelce. I know that he just got a contract extension. I know that he got a 3-year deal. But again, I think that you could go get another tight end. I don't know if it'll happen. But hey, why not take a chance and go get your future tight end? Go get Kenyon Sadiq. Who knows what's going to happen to Travis Kelce between now and the end of his 3-year contract. It wouldn't hurt. That's why I have Kenyon Sadiq going 29. 30, I have Colton Hood from Miami. Again, this is Miami misses on potentially going to get another DB. Any other or draft, I would have Mansour Delane right here. If he's at 11, I think they go get him. But sitting at 30, I think Miami gets a receiver. I think that would be Denzel Boston at 30. But right now, from where I have it, I have number 11 at Mekhi Lemon. Think you got to go get a DB. That's where Colton Hood comes into play. 31, I think New England needs some help in the interior. I don't know what you're going to do with Will Campbell. I thought he had a pretty strong first year. I thought he struggled in the postseason. I know a lot of people have been asking, man, is he going to go to guard? Is he going to go to this? Is he going to go to that? I don't know. I don't really know. But I do think they go get a nasty interior offensive lineman named Keelan Rutledge, who was dominant in the interior, who I talked to at the Senior Bowl, is a nasty, nasty player that is going to dominate any game of the season, and they're going to play and get an opportunity to potentially dominate when it comes to the run game this year. I think that's what's going to put them over the hump. And then 32, I think Seattle, with them having to replace some guys at DB, you need some help there. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren has been a sleeper guy that from Toledo that is going to prove to be an elite pick for a team like Seattle that needs help in the secondary. Had an elite secondary last year. They're going to lose some guys. They've lost some guys to free agency. Make no mistake about it. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is one of those DBs that you love to see. Let's talk about the spring games and what's the ultimate takeaway from around college football. Here is where I think that, excuse me. Here's where I think that, look, I think spring games, I wish they would broadcast them on like ESPN and stuff like that. I know Texas A&M, I don't know, I think Tennessee did it, but I don't know if they did or not. Most of it was kind of closed off from the networks, which sucked. But I do think that there was some impressive fits on display. I know that there was obviously the situation with Chaz Coleman with Tennessee. We broke that down in a video. Make sure you guys go check that out. But I did want to briefly bring up the Florida situation with Aaron Philo. I know that there was a bit of a battle between him. I'm not sure where else. Him. Ooh, excuse me. With him and Tramel Jones. I know Tramel Jones had some really good throws throughout the game this past weekend. I thought Philo is the guy that's going to be the favorite at this point in time. But still, Tramel did a better job in practice, did a much better job of protecting the football. Also, Philo did kind of struggle with interceptions, did have some pretty poor throws into traffic. But I think overall, I think this may end up being a 2-quarterback game by the time we get into fall. And I think Philo, they're going to drag this on for a while. But I think Sumrall, when it's all said and done, is going to say, Philo's our guy. He's going to rock with us until he either gets hurt or he struggles. And by that point in time, we'll make a decision. Tramel is going to be obviously the number 2 guy. He's going to be ready to go. I expect him to get plenty of playing time in these early games that Florida plays. I know that they do have some cupcake games early on with FAU and Campbell. I do expect him to get some playing time in those 2 games. We'll get a better look at what Tramel Jones looks like the first 2 games of the season. But that's going to end it for us tonight, guys. Make sure you all do us a favor. Hit the like and share button down below. Turn off the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live, posting a video or posting a short here on the Southern Sports Scene. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, stay blessed. Don't trust. Y'all have a great rest of the week.